Hey everyone, Richard here from Silipo Coffee University. Today's video is going to be on what is a coffee recipe, why do we need one, and how we're going to use it, and what are the sort of factors that we need to make the best coffee possible as an espresso. This will be basically an espresso video. But before we get into it, I want you to like and subscribe down below. That helps us with all our algorithms on YouTube and to get us up a bit higher so we can be around a lot longer making good YouTube content. So please like and subscribe to our channel. And let's get into this. Okay, so what we're going to need today to talk about a coffee recipe is like, one, what is the coffee recipe? Why do we need it? And how do we use it? And is it the same for espresso as it is for a coffee siphon, a V60 pour over, or any other style of coffee? Well, they all end up coming together to be needed the same way. So we sort of need so much water in and out. We need so much coffee for each coffee making device. We need, certain pressure for coffee machines, or we need to be gravity fed, or with an AeroPress, it's the force downward. So they've all got a little bit of difference to them. So we're not going to go too far into all the different methods. We will have videos, so make sure you do subscribe to our channel on how to do an AeroPress and all that sort of thing. And it will show you exactly what the recipe is when we get to those ones as well. But for today, let's just keep it simple with espresso. We're at home, or we're in a coffee shop, we're a barista, we're in a coffee roastery, that sort of thing. So okay, the coffee recipe, there's three parts mainly that people talk about. So there's dose, there's yield, and there's time of the extraction. That's the three things everyone talks about. There's two other things that we're going to point out that's very, very important that not too many people talk about when it comes to their recipe, but it's the most crucial two for us. Okay, so the first part, let's have a look at dose. What is a dose? Dose is just how much coffee is going to go into our coffee basket. So if my recipe is 21 grams, 21 grams is going in here. So if I put that on the grinder, weigh it on my scales, I want to see 21 grams of ground coffee for my recipe. That's what a dose is, just how much is going in that basket. Okay, so the next thing is yield. What's yield? So as the coffee pours, we want a certain amount, I've just got a flying around, we've got a certain amount of coffee coming out of the group head and into, like, say, a split shot from two spouts. And what it is it's just like, say in the old school days, we used to do 25s or 30 mils of coffee. So nowadays we talk about in grams. So our recipe is 47 grams out. So that's 25 mil plus crema approximately, and 47 is vice versa, approximately the other way around. Okay, then the third thing we need is, well, how long do we want that to pour? Do we want it to pour for 28 seconds, 32 seconds? So that's time of extraction. So that's the third thing. So dose, yield, and time of extraction. We've picked those because that's the best for our coffee, so the way we roast it. So we're looking at a couple of other factors now. How dark is our coffee? How light roasted is our coffee? So if you've got a very oily coffee, very dark, you're definitely going to need to pour a lot faster shot, because a lot of the acid and everything's roasted out at the roasting level and there's nothing left. So if we go a lot over 28, 30 seconds, we're going to get a lot of bitterness in the cup. So we generally, 25 to 30 second bracket, we're going to be extracting a dark roasted coffee. Something like our coffee that's medium roasted, we're going to be looking at around about the 30 to 32 second mark. Say 32 seconds is our recipe, because it's a lot lighter. We still have acid in there, but we also have a lot of flavor in there because we buy very high quality specialty coffee. So what we do is we squeeze it a bit harder just to make sure there's not too much acid, because we don't want too much, it's a little bit too vibrant, because we want that to balance out with the body and the flavor as well. So we sort of have our recipe at 21 grams, at 47 grams out, and 32 seconds for most of our blends. Our single origins are a little bit different. Single origins we cut a little bit shorter, so we use the traditional specialty recipe, which is 2 for 1. So if you put 20 grams in, you get 40 grams out. Now the reason for that is, in the industry we talk about what is a ristretto, or what is a restricted shot of coffee. That's just if we don't pour it all the way to that 25 mil or that 47 grams, that's restricting it. So we're restricting it somewhere. So when you do pour something a little bit less and a little bit faster in time, so 28 seconds for say 40 grams, we're showcasing more of the origin. So if it's a Kenyan bean with lots of cherry in it, we're going to get lots of cherry flavor by doing that. really good body, really good sweetness, but we're not going to overpower it with that second half of the extraction, which is really a lot of caffeine and acid at the end. All the good stuff comes out at the start. So we never want to waste that or not catch that. That's the good stuff, that first 15 mil sort of thing. So if we can catch that, 40 grams, it makes a really good 1-to-2 ratio for specialty coffee, and especially for a single origin. So we do have that recipe for our single origins most of the time, and the color and the darkness of what we roast to makes a big difference. So the two things that everyone misses on a lot of the videos I've seen, a lot of people talking about recipe, is basically the pressure. No one really talks about the 9 bars of pressure that comes through the machine and what that's all about. So 9 bars of pressure is very important because most of the machinery in the market, especially from the entry level for a $5,000 sort of 2-group machine right up to a $35,000 Synesso Hydra machine, they all run 9 bars of pressure pretty much with the same commercial pump. Now, some machines like ours in our shop is a machine that can do 3 bars, 6 bars, 8 bars, 9 bars, whatever we want. We can make it go up and down like a yo-yo. Sanremo Opera would do that, and there's a few others on the market like the Stratas and the La Marzocco that can muck around with pressure profiling too. Now, that's great, but we don't really have them at home, and we don't really use them in the industry because it's very hard to replicate the same thing if you don't have the same machine. So pressure is very important. So 9 bars of pressure is the benchmark for just espresso across the board because it's in every single machine running at 9 bars. We can turn the pump up and down. It's very simple on the inside of the machine, but they are on the inside, so we've got to open them up to get there. And we could pour 8 bars of pressure, and therefore the coffee could be pouring a lot slower through the actual coffee grind. So we may need to change our recipe again and probably cut it shorter because we would over extract if we had it longer. We can use things like pre-infusion where we can run 3 bars of water pressure, which is like line pressure, just to wet or pre-soak the puck. Then we could extract at 9 bars, and then again we could cut the coffee short at say 28 seconds instead of 32, and we'd get a lot different coffee. So it gives a real dense, sort of a real heavy coffee with a lot of sweetness. It's quite nice. We used to use that on the machine we used to have here, and we can still do it on our machine too. But the problem is all of our customers can't replicate it. So we're trying to do what we can do everywhere, not just what we do in our shop. So pressure is a very big part. The last thing is basically temperature, which no one talks about again. So our temperature is around 93.5 on our machine in our shop. We used to run it at 92. Now, the way you get to that is how dark roasted, again, the beans are and how light roasted they are. So that changes the density of the bean. And like I said, if it's dark roasted, it can make a bitter coffee very easy. And if it's light roasted, you're going to have a lot of acid and it might not be palatable to actually drink and try. So a really good way of doing this is I read a book from Pete Licata, which is a World Barista Championship. I think it's on how to make good espresso coffee or how to make great coffee. I'll put it up on the screen there for you. Now, he's got a density guide which looks like this in his book. I've just converted to a density guide for us in Silipo Coffee University, and we're training all of the staff here at Silipo Coffee. So it's really, really quite simple how it works. All we do is we get our coffee beans, we put a 1 cup measurement like we use in a kitchen, like for 1 cup of flour, like just a cup, and we put beans in, we make it nice and flat to measure the density of the beans. Now, that's going to give us a sort of a roundabout figure of weight. We divide that by 25, and we'll get a number that sits between, say, 3.5 to 4.6. And then if we go along the line, it will tell you what it is. So let's just say if it was 4 in density, 93.3 degrees, which is what ours roughly is, that's what we should be using on our espresso machine. And it also applies to a V60 pour over. So let's just say we've got a lighter roast and it comes out like at 4.3 density, so it's a little bit heavier. It's saying that we need a 95-degree temperature, and that's exactly what we use. So over the years, I've sort of told baristas, go a little bit hotter, it's a lighter roast, and we're doing V60 pour over. Go a little bit lower, we're on the espresso machine. That's a darker roast, so drop the temperature down. So I had one Japanese customer a long time ago. He was absolutely brilliant. He used our espresso roast and dropped it down to the level of 90, 91, 92, or I think even 88 at the time. I forget what it was, a long time ago, 10 years ago. And he got a pretty good result by dropping the temperature down because it wasn't really made for a V60, here in Australia, but it was made like that in Japan quite a lot. So that makes a big difference to temperature. So make sure you know what temperature is coming through your machine. If you don't have access to temperature on your machine. So let's say it's a heat exchange machine, which just means that it heats itself by going through the back boiler. And when we push the button, it's sort of sitting at a pretty high temperature, like 96, 97 when we first press the button. It actually comes out and it mixes a bit of cold water in as it flows through, and it drops the temperature down to 93 to 94 somewhere. So just press that button, let it run for 2 to 3 seconds, stop it, and then insert your handle, and you should be around 93, 94. So depending on the color of your beans, you should be able to work that out. And sort of that's called temperature surfing. So you should be able to hit that pretty well, and you don't really need to see it, but you'll taste it in the cup a hell of a lot better than just putting it straight in there and pressing the button. Okay, so this is all about recipe and stuff. So let's just go over it. You've got a dose going in your coffee machine. You've got a yield, which is basically what's coming out, so 40 to 47 grams, and you've got a time, could be 28 to 32 seconds or something similar. So that's pretty much what we're doing today, is just talking about the recipe. So I hope that helps you with the recipe. The only time it changes from what we do in a commercial machine is on a home machine. So you might see some home machines behind me. A lot of the smaller home machines, right up to a, a double boiler machine, they all have heat exchange and they all have vibrational pumps nearly, except a couple on the market. But a vibrational pump isn't the same as a rotary pump that's in a commercial machine. It buzzes, it goes bzzz as it pours its coffee. It emulates or tries to get to 9 bars of pressure. And if you miss with your grind, you'll see that 8 bars might show up because it's just running a little bit too quick. And if you really go too fine, it might go over to 10 or 12 bars. Now, on one of those sort of machines, and if you're a home customer, what I want you to do is still weigh your coffee in around that 21 gram mark, 20 to 21 somewhere. And what I want you to do is I want you to sort of wait for the shot to pour out, maybe a little bit longer. On a commercial machine, we may see it between, say, 6 and 7 seconds somewhere. At home, it might be about 10 to 12 seconds, like it's quite late. And then it's really nice and tight and it pours quite well, like honey, like a little fine mousy tail, that little black tail that we always look for. And then it speeds up. But we also notice that in the second half of the shot, it speeds up quite a lot. And this is off a double handle too that I'm talking about. You can cut it off around about 22 to 24 seconds and you'll get a really good result at home. So if you watched our first video on how to set a grinder to a machine with a home and you've got a vibrational pump, I want you to look at around that 21 grams. It's on our recipes on all our coffee online. Just try to pour, around that 22-second mark with the double handle with that 21 grams. You'll have a lot better result. That's just for like any milk-based beverage, or basically it's sort of like a bit of a ristretto, but it's a way the pump pours while you want to do that. So I hope that helps you out heaps. I want you to ask me questions down below. Like and subscribe again to the channel so that way we can bring you more content. And just let me know if this helps you out. It's very quick, very simple on just what a coffee recipe is. But I really wanted to do this first before we get into how to brew a plunger, how to brew, all the different methods, because if you don't know what a recipe is, we can't move forward. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you got a lot out of it. And like I said, just ask me if you want one of these sheets here. We can email that to you in a PDF. It's worth your weight in gold. You'll start getting a lot better results straight away. These other sheets I got here are just like recipes for pour overs and that. But we're going to go into another video. Thank you and see you next time.